What's really between your legs, Ambassador Russell? Queen Sella's abrupt question shatters the decorum of the Ullian Royal Palace's Grand Hall. Earth's top diplomat, Benjamin Russell, freezes mid-bow, his mind racing to process the monarch's shocking inquiry. The towering queen, her 9-foot frame draped in shimmering robes that accentuate her iridescent scales, looms over the human delegation. Her piercing gaze bores into Benjamin, awaiting an answer that could determine the fate of Earth-Ullian relations. Whispers ripple through the assembled diplomats. The Ullian court, known for its direct and often inappropriate demeanor, falls silent, all eyes fixed on the human ambassador. Benjamin straightens, acutely aware of the weight this moment carries. Unbeknownst to him, Queen Sella's query is more than mere curiosity. It's a test. Ullian intelligence suggests humans possess a hidden biological advantage, and in the face of the encroaching Zaxtor Empire, only a species with superior reproductive capabilities is deemed worthy of alliance. Benjamin's mind races. The wrong answer could deny Earth crucial Ullian technology needed to defend against the impending Zaxtor invasion. He catches a subtle signal from the human delegation's military attaché, conveying the high stakes of this unexpected turn. Queen Sella's chief advisor, Krell, watches with growing concern. He knows the Queen's unorthodox approach could jeopardize the alliance he believes is necessary for Ullian survival. His eyes dart between the Queen and the human ambassador, silently willing a favorable outcome. Benjamin draws on years of diplomatic experience, formulating a strategy to turn this awkward situation to humanity's advantage. He considers the potential ramifications of his next move, knowing that a misstep could not only end his career, but also doom Earth to face the Zaxtor threat alone. The Grand Hall, with its soaring ceilings and intricate alien architecture, seems to close in around him. The air grows thick with tension as the assembled dignitaries await his response. Benjamin's pulse quickens, but he maintains a composed exterior, years of training kicking in. He prepares to speak, acutely aware that his words and actions in the next few moments will shape the future of interstellar relations. The fate of both human and Ullian civilizations hangs in the balance, all hinging on how he addresses the Queen's inappropriate demand without compromising Earth's dignity or his own privacy. As Benjamin opens his mouth to respond, he realizes this is more than a negotiation. It's a test of humanity's adaptability, quick thinking, and diplomatic prowess. In this alien court, far from home, he stands as Earth's representative, tasked with proving that humans are indeed worthy allies in the face of galactic threats. The tense silence stretches, electric with anticipation. Benjamin takes a deep breath, ready to navigate this delicate situation and demonstrate why humanity deserves its place among the stars. Benjamin's lips parted, his mind racing to formulate a response that would salvage the delicate diplomatic situation. He locked eyes with Queen Sella, his voice steady and measured as he spoke. Your Majesty, I appreciate your directness. In the spirit of fostering understanding between our species, I propose a more comprehensive demonstration of human physiology, perhaps in a more private setting. Queen Sella's scales shimmered with intrigue. A bold suggestion, Ambassador. Very well, let us retire to my personal chambers for this demonstration. The Grand Hall erupted in hushed whispers as Benjamin and a small contingent from both delegations followed the towering queen through ornate corridors. They entered a luxurious chamber adorned with alien art and advanced technology. Benjamin surveyed the room, noting the holographic projector at its center. He approached it, gesturing to the Ullian technician. May I? With a nod from the queen, the technician stepped aside. Benjamin's fingers danced across the alien interface, quickly adapting to its intricacies. A shimmering, three-dimensional image of human anatomy materialized in the air. Your Majesty, esteemed colleagues, Benjamin began, his voice confident. Human physiology is a marvel of adaptability and resilience. He manipulated the hologram, zooming in on various systems. Our reproductive organs, while internal, are highly efficient. We possess the ability to conceive in various environments and adapt to challenging conditions. Queen Sela leaned forward, her eyes wide with fascination. Fascinating. How does this compare to Ulian biology? Benjamin seized the opportunity, highlighting similarities between human and Ulian systems. He emphasized the potential for compatibility, his words carefully chosen to spark the Queen's imagination. As he delved deeper into the intricacies of human reproduction, a sudden power fluctuation rippled through the chamber. The lights flickered, and the hologram sputtered. In a flash of energy, the projection exploded into a massive, highly detailed image of human reproductive anatomy. The oversized display filled the room, eliciting gasps and murmurs from the Ulian officials. Benjamin's heart raced, but he maintained his composure. He quickly stepped forward, gesturing to the enlarged image. "As you can see, Your Majesty, human anatomy is remarkably robust. Even in unforeseen circumstances, we adapt and persevere." Queen Sela's initial shock gave way to impressed curiosity. She circled the hologram, studying it intently. "Indeed, Ambassador, your species continues to surprise me." Benjamin continued his presentation, deftly weaving in comparisons to Ulian physiology and emphasizing the potential for cross-species cooperation. As he spoke, he noticed Queen Sela's gaze shifting between the hologram and himself, a new intensity in her eyes. As the demonstration concluded, Queen Sela made an unexpected move. With a wave of her hand, she dismissed all other personnel from the chamber. "Leave us," she commanded, her voice brooking no argument. The room emptied swiftly, leaving Benjamin alone with the imposing Ulian monarch. His pulse quickened as Queen Sela approached, her iridescent scales shimmering in the dim light. "Ambassador Russell," she began, her voice low and intense, "your presentation has opened my eyes to new possibilities. I see now that our species may have more in common than I initially believed." Benjamin nodded cautiously, unsure of where this was leading. "I'm pleased to hear that, Your Majesty. Fostering understanding between our peoples is crucial, especially in the face of the Zaxtor threat." Queen Sela's next words caught him completely off guard. "I propose a bold step forward in our alliance, Ambassador, a diplomatic union between our species, with you and I as the pioneers." Benjamin's mind reeled. The implications of such a union were staggering. It could secure the alliance Earth desperately needed, potentially saving millions of lives. Yet it also raised complex ethical questions and would irrevocably alter his own future. He studied Queen Sela's face, noting the mix of regal authority and genuine interest in her expression. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, waiting on his response. Benjamin took a deep breath, weighing his words carefully. The chamber seemed to grow smaller, the air thick with tension and possibility. He opened his mouth to speak, knowing that his next words would shape the course of interstellar relations for generations to come. Benjamin's mind raced as he considered Queen Sela's unexpected proposal. The weight of two worlds pressed upon his shoulders, but in that moment, he saw a path forward that could secure Earth's future and forge an unprecedented alliance. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment, "I accept your proposal. A diplomatic union between us could indeed be the foundation of a stronger alliance between our peoples." Queen Sela's scales shimmered with approval, her towering form seeming to grow even more majestic. "You've made a wise choice, Ambassador Russell. Let us waste no time in solidifying our bond." Word of their decision spread rapidly through the palace, and soon preparations were underway for the traditional Ulian compatibility ceremony. Benjamin found himself swept up in a whirlwind of activity as both human and Ulian officials scrambled to adapt to this unexpected turn of events. As the sun rose over the Ulian capital the next day, Benjamin stood at the entrance to the palace's sacred gardens. The air was thick with the sweet scent of alien flora, and a palpable sense of anticipation hung over the assembled crowd of dignitaries and onlookers. Queen Sela appeared beside him, her iridescent robes flowing gracefully around her massive frame. "Are you prepared, Benjamin?" she asked, using his first name for the first time. He nodded, steeling himself for what was to come. "As ready as I'll ever be, Your Majesty." The ceremony began with a thunderous gong, and Benjamin found himself facing the first challenge, a complex maze filled with shimmering, holographic obstacles. He and Queen Sela stepped into the labyrinth together, immediately confronted by a narrow passage barely wide enough for the queen's shoulders. Benjamin's diplomatic instincts kicked in. "Your Majesty, allow me to scout ahead," he suggested, squeezing past her to navigate the tight space. As he emerged on the other side, he called back, "There's a wider area here. If you turn sideways, you should be able to make it through." Queen Sela followed his advice, her scales scraping against the walls as she maneuvered through the passage. They continued through the maze, Benjamin's agility complementing the queen's strength as they overcame each obstacle. At one point, they faced a towering holographic wall. Without hesitation, Queen Sela cupped her hands, creating a step for Benjamin. "Up you go, Ambassador," she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. Benjamin stepped into her hands, marveling at the strength in her arms as she lifted him effortlessly. He scrambled to the top of the wall, then reached down to help guide the queen as she scaled the obstacle. As they progressed, their teamwork became more fluid, each anticipating the other's movements. The watching crowd murmured in approval, impressed by the unlikely pair's growing synchronicity. Finally, they reached the center of the maze, where a circular platform awaited them. Ancient Ulian symbols pulsed with soft light around its edge. "The final test," Queen Sela explained. "We must move as one to activate the joining sequence." Benjamin nodded, taking his position opposite the queen. As if guided by an unseen force, they began to move. Their bodies swayed and stepped in perfect harmony, tracing intricate patterns across the platform's surface. As their dance reached its crescendo, the symbols around the platform flared to life. A surge of energy pulsed through the garden, and suddenly the air was filled with the glow of thousands of bioluminescent flowers bursting into bloom. The crowd erupted in cheers as Benjamin and Queen Sela completed their final steps. They stood facing each other, both breathing heavily from the exertion. In that moment, Benjamin felt a connection to the alien monarch that transcended their physical differences. "Well done, Benjamin," Queen Sela said, her voice warm with admiration. "You've proven yourself a worthy partner." As the excitement of the public ceremony faded, Benjamin found himself following Queen Sela to her private chambers for a more intimate bonding ritual. The room was dimly lit, filled with strange apparatus that hummed with alien energy. "This process will allow us to exchange genetic material non-invasively," Queen Sela explained as they positioned themselves on opposite sides of a glowing platform. "It will give us a deeper understanding of each other's biology." Benjamin nodded, trying to quell the nervousness in his stomach. As the process began, he felt a tingling sensation spreading through his body. Images and sensations flooded his mind. The feel of scales, the strength of Ulian muscles, the complexity of their multi-chambered hearts. Across from him, Queen Sela's eyes were wide with wonder. "Fascinating," she murmured. "Your species is so resilient." Suddenly, Queen Sela's body began to convulse. Her scales started shifting, changing colors in rapid succession. Benjamin watched in alarm as the queen's form seemed to ripple and change before his eyes. "Your Majesty," he called out, moving to her side. "Are you all right?" Queen Sela's voice came out strained. "This is unexpected. Call Dr. Zara." Benjamin rushed to the communication panel, summoning the royal physician. As he turned back to the queen, he saw her body continuing to transform, her scales now pulsing with vibrant, never-before-seen patterns. Dr. Zara burst into the room moments later, her eyes widening at the sight of the queen's metamorphosis. She quickly began scanning Queen Sela with various instruments, her expression a mix of concern and fascination. "This is remarkable," Dr. Zara breathed. "Your Majesty, your body is undergoing an evolutionary leap. It appears to be a response to the human genetic material." Benjamin felt a wave of guilt wash over him. "Is she in danger? Is there anything we can do?" Dr. Zara shook her head. "This is a natural process, albeit an extremely rare one. We must let it run its course." As Queen Sela's transformation continued, Benjamin refused to leave her side. He watched in awe as her form shifted and changed, her scales taking on new, intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light. Outside the chamber, he could hear the commotion as news of the queen's condition spread. The implications of this unexpected development were staggering, and Benjamin knew that both Earth and Ulia would be forever changed by what was transpiring in this room. As he held Queen Sella's hand, feeling the pulse of her alien biology beneath his fingers, Benjamin realized that their union had become something far more profound than a mere political alliance. Whatever the future held, their destinies were now irrevocably intertwined. As Benjamin held Queen Sella's hand, he felt a sudden pulse of energy course through him. The queen's body began to convulse more violently, her scales rippling in waves of iridescent light. "Your Majesty!" Benjamin called out, his voice tinged with concern. Dr. Zara rushed to the queen's side, her instruments beeping frantically. "It's accelerating," she said, her eyes wide with a mix of fascination and worry. Benjamin watched in awe as Queen Sella's towering form began to shrink. Her scales, once rough and prominently raised, started to smooth out, taking on a texture more akin to human skin while retaining their vibrant, otherworldly hue. The process was both beautiful and unsettling, like watching a time-lapse of a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. Hours passed, and Benjamin refused to leave the queen's side. He watched as her facial features softened, becoming more human-like yet retaining an undeniably alien allure. Her body continued to shrink until she stood at approximately 7 feet tall, still imposing but no longer towering over Benjamin as she once did. As the transformation slowed, Dr. Zara's instruments quieted. "It's stabilizing," she announced, her voice filled with relief and excitement. "Her vital signs are strong, but her biology, it's unlike anything I've ever seen." Queen Sella's eyes fluttered open, meeting Benjamin's gaze. He gasped, struck by the intensity of her altered appearance. Her eyes, once entirely alien, now held a hint of human structure while maintaining their mesmerizing, multifaceted quality. "Benjamin," she said, her voice a mix of familiar authority and newfound warmth. "What has happened to me?" Before he could respond, Benjamin felt a strange sensation wash over him. It was as if he could sense Queen Sella's confusion and wonder without her having to express it. He reached out to help her sit up, and as their skin made contact, a jolt of energy passed between them. "Your Majesty," Dr. Zara interjected, "your body has undergone a remarkable transformation. It appears that the genetic exchange with Ambassador Russell has triggered an evolutionary leap in your biology." Queen Sella examined her altered form, running her hands over her smoother skin. "I feel different, stronger, yet more connected." Her gaze returned to Benjamin, and he felt that strange resonance again. "I feel it too," Benjamin said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's as if I can sense your thoughts, your emotions." Dr. Zara's eyes widened. "Fascinating. It seems the genetic blending has resulted in more than just physical changes. You appear to have developed a form of limited telepathic communication." As the implications of their transformation began to sink in, the room was suddenly filled with a flurry of activity. Members of the Royal Advisory Council burst in, their faces a mix of shock and concern as they beheld their altered queen. "Your Majesty," one of the councillors gasped, "are you well?" Queen Sella rose to her feet, her new form still commanding respect despite its reduced stature. "I am more than well, Counselor. I am evolved." Benjamin stood beside her, acutely aware of the energy flowing between them. He could sense her willpower, her excitement at the possibilities this change presented. "This is a new era for our people," Queen Sella announced, her voice strong and clear. "Ambassador Russell and I have formed a bond that transcends our original species. This union will be the foundation of an alliance stronger than any we could have imagined." As the councillors murmured among themselves, Benjamin felt a sudden surge of alarm. It wasn't his own emotion, but Queen Sella's. He turned to her, seeing the concern in her eyes. "We must address our people," she said, her thoughts brushing against his mind. "There will be fear, confusion. We need to quell it before it turns to panic." Benjamin nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Earth will need to be informed as well. This changes everything. As they prepared to face the public, Dr. Zara approached them with a data pad. Your Majesties, I've made a preliminary analysis of your new biology. The potential implications are staggering. Your adaptive DNA could potentially be used to enhance both human and alien populations, granting increased disease resistance and improved physical capabilities. Benjamin and Queen Sela exchanged glances, the weight of this discovery settling upon them. Their union had created something far beyond a mere political alliance. It had opened the door to a new future for both their species. As they stood before the communication array, ready to address their respective worlds, Benjamin felt a mix of anticipation and purpose flowing through their shared connection. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their bond a bridge between two worlds and a beacon of hope for the future. Unknown to them, at the edges of the Olean solar system, the first Zaxtor scout ships slipped silently through the void, harbingers of a conflict that would test the strength of their newfound unity. Alliance. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their bond a bridge between two worlds and a beacon of hope for the future. As Benjamin and Queen Sela stood before the communication array, a shrill alarm pierced the air. Red lights flashed throughout the palace, and the room erupted into chaos. Advisors and military personnel rushed in, their faces etched with panic. Your Majesty, Admiral Jack Sikor burst through the doors, his scales flaring with urgency. We've detected a massive fleet entering the system. It's the Zaxtor. Benjamin felt a surge of alarm through his connection with Queen Sela. Her thoughts raced, mirroring his own. They exchanged a quick glance, their newfound bond allowing them to communicate without words. How much time do we have? Queen Sela asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil Benjamin sensed within her. Admiral Jack Sikor's tail lashed nervously. The outer defense fleet is engaging them now, but they're vastly outnumbered. We estimate less than 12 hours before they reach Ulia. Dr. Zara stepped forward, her datapad clutched tightly in her claws. Your Majesties, I believe our recent discovery might be the key to our survival. The adaptive DNA you now share could potentially enhance both our species' capabilities. Benjamin's mind raced with possibilities. A large-scale genetic modification program? Precisely, Dr. Zara nodded. But we'd need to act quickly. Queen Sela's scales rippled with persistence. Do it. Mobilize every available scientist and medical professional. We need to prepare our people for what's coming. As the room buzzed with activity, Benjamin felt a tugging sensation in his mind. He turned to Queen Sela, seeing the same realization in her eyes. We need to go deeper, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Our bond. I think we've only scratched the surface of what it can do. Without another word, they made their way to a private chamber, leaving their advisors to carry out their orders. Inside, strange bioorganic machinery pulsed with an otherworldly glow. This is where we first bonded, Queen Sela explained, positioning herself on one side of the central platform. But this time, we'll push it further. Benjamin took his place opposite her, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. As the machinery hummed to life, he felt the familiar tingling sensation spread through his body. Their minds merged, thoughts and sensations flowing freely between them. Benjamin gasped as he felt his body changing, cells rearranging and adapting at an incredible rate. Across from him, Queen Sela's form shifted and pulsed with energy. Time seemed to lose all meaning as they delved deeper into their shared consciousness. Benjamin caught glimpses of ancient Olean knowledge, while Queen Sela experienced the full breadth of human emotion and creativity. Suddenly, their awareness expanded. Benjamin could sense the palace around them, then the city, then the entire planet. He felt the fear and drive of the Ulian people, the confusion and willpower of the humans stationed on their world. As their connection reached its peak, a new ability blossomed. They could communicate across vast distances, their thoughts bridging the gap between stars. With a gasp, they separated, the bioorganic machinery powering down. Benjamin staggered, his body tingling with newfound energy. Queen Sela steadied him, her touch sending sparks of sensation through his altered nervous system. We need to test this, she said, her voice filled with urgency. They made their way to the command center, where Admiral Jack Sikor was coordinating with Earth's Space Force. General Marcus Steele's hologram flickered above the tactical display, his face grim as he discussed deployment strategies. Benjamin stepped forward, reaching out with his mind. To his amazement, he could sense General Steele's thoughts, despite the vast distance between them. "General," Benjamin said, his voice resonating with newfound authority, "we have a new asset in this fight." As Benjamin and Queen Sela explained their enhanced abilities, Dr. Zara burst into the room, her eyes wide with excitement. "Your Majesties," she panted, "we've made a breakthrough. Your hybrid DNA, it's the key to activating ancient Ulian technology we thought was lost to us." Queen Sela's scales rippled with interest. "What kind of technology?" "A planetary shield," Dr. Zara replied, her voice filled with awe. "But it requires an enormous amount of energy to operate." Benjamin's mind raced, an idea forming. He turned to Queen Sela, their thoughts aligning as they considered the possibilities. "A synchronized mating event," he said, the words feeling strange on his tongue, "between human and Ulian volunteers. The energy generated could power the shield." The room fell silent, the implications of this proposal hanging heavy in the air. Queen Sela's scales shifted through a range of colors as she weighed the ethical concerns against their dire situation. Finally, she nodded. "We have no choice. Send out the call for volunteers, and may the stars have mercy on us all." As the first waves of Zaxtor ships breached Ulia's outer defenses, Benjamin and Queen Sela stood atop the royal palace, overseeing the preparations for their audacious attempt. Below them, humans and Ulians paired off, their bodies glowing with the bioluminescent markings of their hybrid DNA. The air crackled with tension and possibility. In orbit, the combined Earth-Ulian fleet engaged the Zaxtor in a desperate holding action. The fate of two worlds now rested on the success of this unprecedented union of species. Benjamin reached out, taking Queen Sela's hand in his own. As their fingers intertwined, a pulse of energy passed between them. Whatever the outcome, they would face it together. Together, united against the coming storm. As the first explosions lit up the night sky, Benjamin and Queen Sela shared a determined look. They knew what had to be done. "We must act now," Queen Sela said, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. "Gather the volunteers. It's time to activate the shield." Benjamin nodded, feeling the urgency through their shared connection. They quickly made their way to the massive chamber deep within the royal palace, where thousands of human and Ulian volunteers had already assembled. The air crackled with nervous energy as Benjamin and Queen Sela took their positions at the center of the room. The chamber hummed with the low thrum of energy harvesting technology, designed to capture the unique bioelectrical emissions that would soon fill the air. "My friends," Queen Sela addressed the crowd, her voice carrying a mix of authority and vulnerability. "What we ask of you today is unprecedented, but it is our only hope for survival." Benjamin stepped forward, his presence a bridge between the two species. "Human and Ulian, joining as one, our unity will be our strength." As they began, a wave of energy pulsed from their bodies. Their hybrid physiology created a powerful resonance that spread throughout the chamber, encouraging the others to join. The air grew thick with pheromones and electrical charge as thousands of human-Ulian pairs engaged in intimate acts. Benjamin gasped as he felt the energy building around them. Through his connection with Queen Sela, he sensed the ancient Ulian technology coming to life. Beneath their feet, massive energy conduits began to glow, channeling the harvested bioelectrical energy to the planetary shield generators. In orbit, Admiral Jaxcor's voice crackled over the comms. "Your Majesties, the Zaxtor fleet has broken through our outer defenses. We're sustaining heavy losses." Queen Sela's scales rippled with worry, but her voice remained steady. "Hold the line, Admiral. The shield is powering up." As the mating ritual intensified, Benjamin and Queen Sela's connection deepened further. Suddenly, their awareness expanded, linking with the minds of the other participants. A vast network of shared consciousness formed, allowing for unprecedented coordination between the mating pairs. "Benjamin," Queen Sela gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "Are you feeling this?" He nodded, overwhelmed by the flood of sensations and thoughts from thousands of minds. "It's incredible. We're all connected." This unexpected development dramatically increased the energy output. The chamber pulsed with bioluminescent light, the air thick with ozone, and the mingled sense of two species becoming one. Outside, a shimmering barrier began to form in the upper atmosphere, visible even from the planet's surface. In orbit, Admiral Jaxicor seized the opportunity. "The shield is up! All ships, press the attack!" As the battle raged above, Dr. Zara burst into the monitoring room adjacent to the mating chamber. Her eyes were wide with excitement and alarm. "Your Majesties, the energy release is causing further mutations in the participants' DNA. The hybridization process is accelerating beyond our initial projections." Benjamin felt a surge of concern through his link with Queen Sela. The implications were staggering, but there was no turning back now. The mating ritual reached its crescendo. Benjamin and Queen Sela, at the heart of the energy storm, experienced a moment of transcendent connection. Their shared consciousness expanded exponentially, touching the minds of every participant in the chamber. In that instant of perfect unity, a massive surge of energy pulsed through the shield generators. The planetary barrier flared with blinding light, expanding outward to engulf the entire Zaxtor fleet. Through their enhanced senses, Benjamin and Queen Sela could perceive the battle in orbit. They watched as the invading ship's systems overloaded, leaving them defenseless against the combined Earth-Ulian fleet. Admiral Jaxcor's voice rang out, filled with fierce joy. "The enemy is in disarray. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship." As the immediate threat began to subside, Benjamin and Queen Sela gently guided the mating ritual to its conclusion. The chamber filled with sighs and murmurs as the participants, exhausted but exhilarated, began to realize the full extent of their changed biology. Benjamin helped Queen Sela to her feet, both of them swaying slightly as they adjusted to their new hybrid forms. Around them, humans and Ulians examined themselves and each other, marveling at the new traits they had acquired. "We did it," Benjamin said softly, his voice filled with awe and a hint of trepidation. "But at what cost?" Queen Sela squeezed his hand, her scales shifting in a pattern he now recognized as perseverance. "Whatever the cost, we'll face it together. This is only the beginning." As they prepared to address their people and deal with the aftermath of their daring plan, a new message came through. Ambassador Elena Chen's hologram appeared, her face etched with concern. "Your Majesties," she said, her voice tight with urgency, "we have a situation on Earth. A group of extremists led by Victor Kane is attempting to sabotage our war effort. They believe the Human-Ulian alliance threatens the purity of human genetics." Benjamin and Queen Sela exchanged a worried glance. The battle against the Zaxtor might be won, but new challenges were already arising. As they moved to respond to this fresh crisis, they knew that the future of both their worlds hung in the balance, forever changed by the events of this extraordinary day. Benjamin and Queen Sela exchanged a grim look as Ambassador Chen's hologram flickered out. The victory against the Zaxtor had come at a steep price, and new challenges were already emerging. "We need to address our people," Queen Sela said, her scales shifting to a deep blue of concern. "They deserve to know the full extent of what's happened here." Benjamin nodded, feeling the weight of their shared responsibility. As they made their way to the palace's communications center, they passed groups of humans and Ulians, all examining their changed bodies with a mix of awe and trepidation. Dr. Zara intercepted them, her eyes wide with excitement. "Your Majesties, the data we're collecting is extraordinary. The hybridization process has resulted in a wide array of genetic enhancements, increased strength, improved healing factors, even potential longevity." Queen Sela's scales rippled with interest. "Any negative effects?" "None that we've detected so far," Dr. Zara replied, "but we're continuing to monitor closely." As they entered the communication center, Admiral Jaxicor's hologram materialized. "Your Majesties, the Zaxtor fleet is in full retreat. We've driven them to the edge of the solar system." "Excellent work, Admiral," Benjamin said, "but maintain vigilance. They may regroup for another assault." With a deep breath, Benjamin and Queen Sela stepped before the holocameras, their images broadcast across both Ulia and Earth. As they began to speak, explaining the hybrid event and its implications, They could sense the shockwaves rippling through both societies. On Earth, Victor Kane seized the moment. His extremist group launched a series of coordinated attacks on key communication hubs, attempting to sever Earth's connection with Olia. Emergency alerts flooded in, forcing Benjamin to cut their address short. "Ambassador Chen," he called out, his voice tight with urgency, "we need to mobilize a response team immediately." "Already on it," Elena replied, her hologram reappearing. "I'm coordinating with Earth security forces and our Ulian peacekeepers. We'll contain this threat." As Benjamin worked to manage the crisis on Earth, Queen Sela found herself facing a different challenge. A group of conservative Ulian council members, led by Elder Crix, had gathered outside the palace, demanding an audience. "Your Majesty," Crix's voice boomed through the chamber as he was admitted, "your transformation has compromised your ability to rule. For the good of our people, you must abdicate." Queen Sela's scales flushed red with indignation. "Elder Crix, our actions saved not only Ulia, but Earth as well. This transformation has opened new possibilities for our species." As the political debate raged, Dr. Zara continued her research, making a startling discovery. "Your Majesties," she interrupted, her voice trembling with excitement. "The hybrid DNA, it's conferring a form of accelerated evolution. These new traits, they're just the beginning." Benjamin and Queen Sela shared a look of wonder and concern. The implications were staggering, but they had no time to fully process them. The immediate crises demanded their attention. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly to stabilize both planets. Benjamin, drawing on his diplomatic experience, mediated between the Ulian factions, helping to secure Queen Sela's position. Meanwhile, Queen Sela used her newfound connection to the hybrid population to calm fears and promote unity. As the situation began to stabilize, they received an urgent communication from Admiral Jack Sikor. "Your Majesties, our long-range sensors have detected Zaxtor activity. They appear to be adapting their technology to counter our shield." General Steele's hologram appeared alongside the admirals. "We need to prepare for a potential second wave. Our element of surprise is gone." Benjamin and Queen Sela knew they needed a more permanent solution. As they discussed options with their advisors, an idea began to form. "A hybrid colony," Benjamin said, his eyes lighting up, "on one of the habitable moons in this system, a place where humans and Ulians can come together, learn from each other, and prepare for future threats." Queen Sela nodded, her scales shifting to a vibrant green of hope. "A symbol of our unity and a testing ground for our combined potential." As they began to draft plans for the colony, opposition arose from purists on both planets, but support also came from unexpected quarters, including a growing movement of hybrids led by Zara, a former Ulian diplomat. Zara's hologram addressed them, her features a striking blend of human and Ulian. "Your Majesties, we stand ready to support this initiative. The hybrid community seeks equal rights and representation in both societies. This colony could be a first step towards that goal." Benjamin and Queen Sela recognized both the opportunity and the challenge Zara's movement presented. They would need to navigate these complex dynamics carefully. As preparations for the colony progressed, Benjamin and Queen Sela made another breakthrough. Their hybrid physiology allowed them to interface directly with advanced Ulian technology, unlocking capabilities previously thought impossible. "Imagine the defensive systems we could create," Queen Sela said, her eyes wide with possibilities. "The communication networks we could establish." But even as they worked towards this brighter future, threats loomed. The Zaxtor were regrouping. Earth was still dealing with extremist attacks, and the long-term implications of the hybrid population remained uncertain. Benjamin and Queen Sela knew they needed to act decisively. They began planning a grand summit on the proposed colony moon, inviting leaders from Earth, Ulia, and the hybrid community. As their ship prepared to depart for the moon, Benjamin couldn't shake a sense of unease. He looked at Queen Sela, seeing his own concerns reflected in her eyes. "We've come so far," he said softly, "but I can't help feeling that our greatest challenges still lie ahead." Queen Sela took his hand, her scales shimmering with dedication. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." As their ship lifted off, Neither of them noticed the subtle signs of sabotage beginning to manifest in the ship's systems, or the watchful eyes of infiltrators among their crew. The journey to the colony moon would be far more perilous than they could have imagined. As their ship broke through Harmony's atmosphere, a violent shudder rippled through the hull. Benjamin and Queen Sela exchanged alarmed glances, their hybrid senses immediately alerting them to danger. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as a series of explosions rocked it from within. The ship lurched, throwing passengers and crew alike off balance. Benjamin steadied Queen Sela, his enhanced reflexes kicking in. "We're under attack," he growled, his eyes scanning the corridors for threats. As if on cue, a group of armed individuals burst into the main cabin. Their faces were a mix of human and alien features, some bearing the distinctive marks of Zaxtor agents, others clearly human extremists. "Protect the Queen!" Benjamin shouted, his body tensing for combat. Queen Sela's scales flickered with dedication as she reached out with her mind, establishing a mental link with the loyal crew members. Through their shared consciousness, she coordinated a swift response. "Behind you," she warned Benjamin telepathically. He ducked, narrowly avoiding a plasma blast that scorched the wall where his head had been moments before. Using his hybrid agility, Benjamin vaulted over a row of seats, closing the distance to the nearest attacker. His fist connected with the saboteur's jaw, sending him sprawling. Queen Sela, drawing on her residual Ulian strength, grappled with a Zaxtor agent twice her size. She twisted, using the attacker's momentum against him, and hurled him into a group of advancing extremists. Dr. Zara emerged from a side chamber, clutching a sleek device. "Your Majesties, I have something that might help." She activated the experimental hybrid technology, sending out a pulse that incapacitated several saboteurs instantly. They dropped to the ground, twitching and disoriented. Despite their valiant efforts, the ship continued to deteriorate. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, strained and urgent. "We've lost primary propulsion. We're on a collision course with the moon's surface." Benjamin and Queen Sela shared a moment of silent communication. They knew what had to be done. "Everyone to the escape pods," Benjamin commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority. As chaos erupted around them, they guided passengers and crew to safety, ensuring each pod was filled to capacity before launching. The ship groaned and buckled, debris raining down from the ceiling. Just as the last pod prepared to depart, Benjamin realized with a sinking feeling that there was no room left for him and Queen Sela. They watched as the final escape pod jettisoned, leaving them trapped on the failing ship with the remaining saboteurs. "We need to take control," Queen Sela said, her scales shifting to a pattern of intense focus. Together, they raced to the bridge, dodging falling debris and fending off the few conscious attackers. Upon reaching the control center, they found it in shambles, screens flickering and sparking. Without hesitation, Benjamin and Queen Sela placed their hands on the main console. Their hybrid physiology allowed them to interface directly with the ship's systems, their minds merging with the craft's artificial intelligence. Through this unprecedented connection, they gained control of the failing ship. Benjamin focused on adjusting their trajectory, aiming for a vast crystalline plain that offered their best chance for survival. Queen Sela directed power to the remaining functional systems, trying to slow their descent. The ship screamed through Harmony's atmosphere, the hull glowing red-hot from the friction. Inside, Benjamin and Queen Sela stood united, their bodies rigid with concentration as they fought for control. With a bone-jarring impact, the ship plowed into the crystalline surface. It skidded across the plain, leaving a trail of debris in its wake before finally coming to a shuddering halt. Silence fell, broken only by the creaking of stressed metal and the faint crackle of electrical fires. Benjamin helped Queen Sela to her feet, both of them battered but alive. As they emerged from the wreckage, they found themselves face to face with the surviving saboteurs. Among them stood Victor Kane, his face contorted with hatred. "You abominations!" Kane spat, his eyes wild with fanaticism. "You've doomed humanity to genetic corruption." Before Benjamin or Queen Sela could respond, a Zaxtor agent seized the moment of distraction to attack. The crystalline plain erupted into a battlefield as the royal couple fought to subdue their assailants. Moving in perfect synchronization, Benjamin and Queen Sela countered each threat. Their hybrid abilities allowed them to anticipate attacks before they came, their movements fluid and precise. Benjamin ducked under a swing from Cain, using his momentum to flip the extremist over his shoulder. Queen Sela's scales rippled as she dodged a Zaxtor energy weapon, retaliating with a swift kick that sent the alien sprawling. As they fought, the horizon lit up with the approach of rescue ships. The saboteurs, realizing their time was running out, fought with increased desperation. In a final, frenzied assault, Cain and the Zaxtor agent rushed Benjamin and Queen Sela simultaneously. The hybrid couple stood back to back, their minds linked, ready to face the threat together. With a series of lightning-fast moves, they disarmed and incapacitated their attackers. As Cain fell to the crystalline ground, the first rescue ship touched down, its engines whipping up a cloud of glittering dust. Benjamin and Queen Sela stood victorious amidst the aftermath of the battle, their hands clasped tightly together. As medical teams and security forces poured out of the rescue ships, the royal couple knew that this harrowing experience would mark a turning point in their quest for unity. The crystalline plane of harmony, once a battlefield, now stood as a testament to their resilience and the strength of their alliance. As they prepared to face the challenges ahead, Benjamin and Queen Sela knew that their greatest test was yet to come, building a future where humans, aliens, and hybrids could truly live in harmony.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.